Thank you. And if you can just take a photo of the board, that would be great. Then I can erase.
Brilliant. Good job.
You're live already?
Excellent.
Anybody wants to recheck my averages, please do.
It's alright.
Be careful, we're live already.
So it's Rabbi Yom Tov on Facebook. Rabbi Yom Tov. You'll see the live screen. I'm already live. And please press share. So instead of it being us 20, it'll become 200, 400,
Wow.
600. We get a lot of views throughout the day. People are waking up. It's only 7 a.m. in the East Coast.
Oh my gosh, my A note's horrible.
This guitar's been through hell.
Yes, it has.
Good enough. I don't have a guitar strap. I don't know how anyone can. Any guy who runs a guitar store and lets people leave without a strap and a little pin right here to put the strap in, it's like, I pity the fool who sends out a guitar like that. What are you supposed to do with it? I'll tell you what you do with it. You put it on the shelf. You put it on a wall. Stare at it. It's an ornamental guitar. Anyway, I have a shop where you can just walk in there.
Yeah?
He'll just go like, zzz.
Just stand up.
You got your nut, and then he'll hand you a strap for 50 shekel or whatever, and you got a guitar. Walk with it everywhere you go.
You got a stand up guitar.
Yeah, this is stand up. I play bass also. It's a stand-up guitar. Okay, here we go. It's not so in tune, but it's a breaks. Should I sit?
Yeah.
Yes.
I got it. This is about coming to Jerusalem for the first time, for those who remember such a thing. In the city of gold, I left a little prayer pressed inside your walls of stone. Oh, it's solitude. And I gave my heart to carry out your will. If you only make it known, patiently you waited until I could hear the tune. That's it for today.
I'm sorry.
Whoa.
Wow.
It's one thing. My voice is also like totally not warmed up for singing. My singing voice and my speaking voice are two completely different instruments. My singing voice needs warming up. Whose waters are these? Really?
Sink, but they work.
Tap water? I don't even know why I did that poll, but I just came from a brainstorming session to discuss what we'd call in Asia Torah the lifeboat. I mean, you're no longer going to get eaten by a shark in a lifeboat. You're not going to drown in life. Meaning when the Titanic sinks. So these were some of the things we called the lifeboat. That would be like for sure this person's not going to disappear as a Jew. So I just wanted to see how important it was to you guys. You should be so proud of your son, by the way.
Just amazing.
What an amazing bride.
Well, it's like.
It's like a dream.
I could not even. I couldn't believe this is going. I mean, these two young people and the families. I just love the whole family. Everything. It's amazing.
You want to know something else? I'm 25 years here, and I grew up surfing just as much as your son.
Yeah.
And even all the stuff he does. Like,
Yeah.
if you just give me 10 days in the water straight, I could probably get back to doing. And he's. But over the 25 years, I've met a lot of surfers who came into Asia Torah and heard our programming. At the end of the program, they're like, "That was amazing," and then they go right back to their life and never come back. So every once in a while I meet a surfer and I'm kind of like halfway hopeful that maybe he'll get some traction as a Jew, and then my hopes are dashed again. But of all the surfers that ever came in, her son Andre was better than all of them, and when he came, he was training to be a professional surfer and had what it took to do so. And he, my phone's being used right now, so I can't show you a photo. But if you want to see a picture of his son surfing here in Israel, even if you know nothing about surfing, you're just like, whoa. And and the guy became like a fully observant Jew. Took several trips. A lot of trips
But
back to Hawaii. They're from Hawaii.
He's been here for almost 3 years.
I know.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he got traction. So there's something about you probably
Well,
that says follow your dreams.
I'm supportive of it. It's his life. He's not a mini me, and it's his life, and I support him. And I keep trying to learn more.
Yeah, that's why you're here. So let's learn. Okay? You guys are all here in which almost never happens, in a 3-part series. And you're in part 3. Sorry to tell you. But that like never happens. But I'll catch you up on parts 1 and 2, which we did a lot of work on. What we're talking about in this class is being a masterful human being. Being a masterful human being. And what is unique to being human is you make choices all day. You're always making all your free will choices, micro choices, macro choices. You're always making choices. Your life is really the sum total of all your choices. Had you lived my life, you'd be standing up here as a Hasidic man, giving a class. Had I lived your life, I'd be sitting in your chair like this, going, we are all the sum total of tons of choices that have been made along the way. It's unique to being human, this kind of choosing we got. It's different than animals and plants. They're hardwired for certain things. We got free will. We can make all kinds of choices, and we have made all kinds of choices. And obviously my job as a teacher today is to be sharing ideas that, well, maybe not today, but in general I'm here to challenge your way of thinking, create some level of debate, and to get to some kind of maybe even an agreement about certain realities that would add to your criteria of choosing, how you choose. So that your choices would be, I believe that the stuff I would present would lead to choices that would lend themselves towards Jewish continuity. That you would become a viable Jew for the next generation, which is not easy. In these days, to become a viable Jew for another generation of Jews is very, very challenging. So I believe that the content I would share would lead to you now having information that would lead to more choices that would lend itself towards observance. I don't know what it would lend itself to, but whatever would be more Jews next generation. Whatever your findings would be. Okay, is that clear? Not today, though. Today we're only discussing how to master free will. Okay? This is only about mastery of free will. This is not about what you should or should not be choosing. Just master. Okay? Step 1 in mastering free will. Anyone remember? Great. Might as well just. I mean, not everyone was in the class.
Constant.
I mean, none of you guys were in the class.
Constant.
Okay, you got it. Was anyone else in yesterday's class? Sorry. That's why every class is different. I'm more doing this for the live folks. You know, I could have taught anything today because hardly any of you were in class yesterday. So, number one was constant. Every second is a chance to make a choice. Every second. Even who your parents are. Even who you're sitting next to. Even being in this classroom right now. You can choose and re-choose and re-choose and re-choose. Re-choose. Number two is reevaluation. Then you have to reevaluate your life constantly. It doesn't mean you make a new decision, but you got to reevaluate. Otherwise, you're like a robot. Number three is battleground. This we did yesterday. Battleground, and that is that you have two voices in your head. You have an animal voice and you have a godly voice. And you have an animal voice, meaning I think all of us, if you didn't eat lunch, you'd like to. You know, we'd like to sustain ourselves, and I think all of us would like to have somewhere we call a home, a roof over our heads to help us survive. That's all part of the animal voice. I think all of us would like to reproduce, or in these days, just be involved sexually in some way. Yeah, so that's all part of the animal voice, and reproduction, survival. Plants, minerals, plants, animals, and humans all want reproduction, survival. But human beings, unlike animals and plants, have a third voice, or a second voice, which is called the godly voice. There's a godly voice. And hence, like this institution, you're inside a $30 million structure. It's a $30 million structure. And this $30 million structure was not created for reproduction. No one's getting like a hotter date for having built this thing. You know, it was, I know who built this thing, and he was a married man in his he is a married man in his 80s. He was a Reformed Jew, and I was at the actual inauguration of the building. You know what he said? He said, "Why is a Reformed Jew like me building to an organization?"
You know that guy personally?
Yeah. Giving it to Aisha Turner, he said, he's a billionaire. He says, the answer is because I went through the Holocaust. I survived the Holocaust. And I want there to be a next generation. And so I'm looking around for organizations that can help create promise for the next generation. And he checked out Aisha Turner, and he said, there's promise there. And so he gave the building. Amazing. So, this whole building doesn't create anyone any wealth. It doesn't create anyone any, you know. I mean, you might get a good date in the lobby out there. You might ask someone out, but that was hardly its intention. You know, the building's intention was not dating. This building is created for the second voice, which is called the godly voice. It's our higher aspirations. So too, our music, symphony orchestras, any kind of music is higher aspiration. It's all our creativity, art, museums, libraries. No one's getting rich, and no one's, you know, reproducing over the fact that there are libraries. These are, you know, it's a place that houses wisdom of humanity throughout the ages. And these are higher aspirations. So you have two major voices. You have an animal voice and you have a godly voice, and they're doing battle. Just one thing I didn't have time to embellish on is that I like to call it, because the animal voice is, it's a lot more kind of coarse, whereas the godly voice is a lot more subtle. It's like a movie I once saw, a very short film. It's called Bambi versus Godzilla. Okay. You guys ever saw that? You saw it too.
But it's a real thing?
Yeah.
I thought you made that up.
No, it's a short film. Very short.
What is it, like a Vine?
And now for a short movie. Bambi versus Godzilla. It starts with Bambi. The first few seconds are Bambi, you know, like by a creek, you know, eating grass. And then there's this shadow of a very large foot. Yeah. Which of course depends on Bambi. And and it's over. The end. Bambi versus Godzilla. But you realize we're all...
Isn't Bambi a deer?
Yeah. So we're all in this movie. We're all in this movie called Bambi versus Godzilla. And Bambi is the spiritual voice. It's the godly voice. It's your higher aspirations. And Godzilla is just looking for a bathroom. You know, Godzilla just wants a sandwich or a beer. Okay, you understand? Godzilla just wants to hang out in Tel Aviv on the beach.
Whoa.
Bambi wants to come to Jerusalem and study Judaism. Okay? Now, somehow, everyone in this room has, like, I don't know, you've given Bambi steroids or something. Like, Bambi's suddenly like, flexing muscles, you know? Bambi's like, let's go to Jerusalem and learn Judaism right across from the Western Wall. Like, gee, Bambi's like pumping up the volume, isn't she? Yeah, so some of us have Bambi pumped up. Some of us have techniques for pumping up Bambi. I'll give you a couple techniques. One is, I always go, I'm not in sales. You know, making yourself into a nerd. You want to see how fast you can become a nerd? It's like, oh, everyone, by the way, this is Aviva. She laughs at everything I say, even when it's not a joke.
But it is a joke in a way.
It is always a joke in a way.
Yes.
Now, but don't get distracted. She just laughs.
I do.
She's wonderful. Okay, now.
I'm not on steroids.
She's
I don't
Bambi
take
on
drugs.
She's Bambi on steroids. Okay, listen. Is this kippah helps Bambi? It helps Bambi.
How does it help Bambi?
Because if I'm walking through town and I'm thinking of doing something stupid, so I'm like, oh wow, like Bambi, yeah. These are helpful. This is the cosmic dental floss.
The cosmic dental floss.
So anyway, but these are like, you know, he's got a pair of ropes over there too. These are reminders. These are reminders. There's even a story in the Talmud of a rabbi who suddenly, like, I don't know what happened. Godzilla won, and he goes to meet rabbi. Godzilla wins, and he goes to meet the greatest, most incredibly beautiful woman in the world in Greece, who no man has ever refused, and it's obviously quite an expensive endeavor to be hanging around her, but he signed up. He signed up, took a boat to Greece. True story. Took a boat to Greece.
What the gorilla did?
Godzilla took a boat to Greece, and he gets into, he gets his name on, it's his turn. He pays whatever he pays, and he goes into this like love chamber of like, it's actually bed upon bed upon bed upon bed upon bed, going higher and higher and higher. And at the top is this like canopy bed with like, flowy drapes and whatever. And there on the top bed is the most beautiful woman that ever lived. And he gets to the top of this wonderland of
reproduction.
You know what? And he starts, as soon as he gets up there, he starts ripping his clothes off. And as he pulls his tzitzis off, inside, he pulls his tzitzis off, it scrapes across his eyes. He's like, ow, because it hurts. Everyone knows, anyone who's prayed in shul, someone's tzitzis. Some of these guys put on their tzitzis like no one exists. And you're just like, oh man. Someone asked a great Rebbe, they said, what are your Kabbalistic intentions when you put on your tzitzis? He says, my Kabbalistic intentions are not to hit anyone in the eye. When I put them on. So, anyway, you ever been nailed by someone's tzitzis?
Growing up down the horse there.
Oh yeah, it's just part of shul. It was just part of shul, and especially when you're a kid, you're like right in the range.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, poor kids. So, anyway, he tzitzis, hit him in the eyes. He's like, ow. And then he looks and he sees his tzitzis and he's like, And all of a sudden, Bambi's like, the world's going on here. And Godzilla's like, and he like realized that he had forgotten everything and had become like Godzilla all of a sudden. So he just quickly grabbed his sisters, put him back on, put on his clothes, and started hopping down the beds, raced down to the dock, gets on the boat, and goes back to Israel. And she was shocked. In her whole career, no one had ever refused her. She needed to get to the bottom of this. So she herself got dressed, hopped down all the beds,
And
crossed
goes
down
to
the dock,
Israel.
goes to the docks. Did you see a rabbinic figure? And they're like, yeah, he just took the last boat out. And did you get his name? They said, yeah, the name's right here. She gets his name, gets the next boat to Israel. She goes on a search for the rabbi. Now, she gets to the
bizarre.
study hall door in Jerusalem. Knocks on the door. One of the rabbinic students opens the door. He's like, yowza, yowza, yowza. You know, he wasn't expecting that. And some Greek goddess is at the door. And I imagine she wasn't wearing biblical clothing. And he's like, I think you got the wrong address. And she's like, no, I'm looking for Rabbi so-and-so. And the guy's like, really? That might be awkward, but let's go try him out. So he goes to the door. He said, listen, there's some like Greek like supermodel outside, Rabbi, and she's using your name as a reference for, she wants to speak to you. The rabbi could have, of course, gone and hidden in the coffee tea room and just said, tell her I died or something.
Oh, God.
Nope, he owned it. He goes out to the door and he says to her, what is it? What can I do for you? And she says, I've just never been refused. Like, what is it that you got that was more powerful than me? Because I always win. And I see that you got something going on that's more powerful than me. I'd like to know what that is. And he explains the whole thing. Explains God, explains Torah, he explains mitzvahs, explains the whole thing. And she converts to Judaism and he marries her.
What does his wife think of that?
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, was anyone else thinking that? Like, what does his wife think of that? No, because people would marry multiple wives at the time. What did his wife think?
She wasn't very happy.
Yeah.
What'd she think
I mean,
when he
can you
went on the
imagine-
original trip?
Can you imagine that day, later that day?
He had commitment issues.
Business trip. Yeah,
Business
honey.
trip. His little business trip to Greece. Yeah. Can you imagine him coming home that day with her? It's like, honey, introducing Alexandra. Whatever. And she's like, get that tramp out of the house. No, you don't understand. She's converting to Judaism and I'm marrying her. She's going to be your co-wife. Can you imagine? Nightmare. Anyway, but he married her and I guess he and his wife had a good relationship. Could be had multiple wives. Maybe she was like number 5 or something. Anyway, now you're in a battle. It's Bambi versus Godzilla, but you gotta pump up the volume. Pump up Bambi's volume. So we got mezuzahs on the door, tzitzis on the sides, kippas on the head, prayers. We're saying prayers all the time. Repeating prayers all the time. We say that. I say this. I say the same thing 3 times a day in my silent meditations. It's formulas. I go to mikveh every morning and start all over again in the holy water every morning. And it's all our regiment is just pumping up Bambi for the godly voice, as opposed to the animal voice, which is Godzilla. You just got to pump it up. That's it. Pumping up the godly voice. Clear? Okay, so we're in a battle, and number 4 of mastering free will is that you want to always side with the soul voice. You want to go with the soul voice. You're in a battleground between body and soul. Oh, by the way, I just want to ask you guys, doesn't it sound like a hassle to find out you're always in a battle? You're always in a battle. Like, am I going to throw this away? Should I just leave it on the table? That's a battle. Am I going to take 5 paper towels and I'm going to take 1? It's a battle. It's a little battle. You're always in a battle. There's just one constant battle going on at all times. it's always between these two voices. So it sounds like a hassle to be in a battle. So what do a lot of us do? We say, I don't want to live in a battle. So like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. I don't want to be in a battle. Tell me, how are you going to do in a battle when you're trying to pretend you're not in a battle? You're going to win, you're going to lose. Yeah. You imagine someone in a battleground, like a real state crowd, like a real battleground. Because it's a real battleground. It's always going on. You all know it's always going on.
I don't get that.
I'll explain in a second more. But you're in a battleground. And those who say, hey, I don't really want to be in a battleground, so I'm going to pretend I'm not. You're going to lose badly. You're in great danger. Why? Because what's the more immediate voice? The animal voice or the godly voice? What's the more immediate voice? Animal voice, the immediate voice. So you're always going to be going there unless you admit and accept the fact that life's a battle. If you know life's a battle between the animal voice and the godly voice, you have a chance. If you want to say, oh, that makes me uncomfortable, you'll lose that battle. Okay? Now, for those of you who think this is all about Judaism just because of maybe my look, I know I look kind of Jewish, but this is nothing to do with Judaism. This is like, for example, someone's got a business, and he's importing, he's dealing with China, and it's a hassle. And the person who runs his factories isn't so great at English, and so they use a translator. It's never fun. His phone's texting off the hook, texting from all his friends at the sports bar, where the NFL's in the first quarter, and NFL's in the first quarter. The Super Bowl is in the first quarter. And all his friends are in a sports bar, drinking beers, watching the game. And he's still got 3 more calls to make, one of which is to that China translator to reach the head of the factories. You understand? What's the godly voice saying? What is the godly voice always saying, everybody? Do Judaism? No. What's it always saying? Do
Next right thing.
excellent. Do the right thing. Do you say the next right
The
thing?
next right.
I like that. That's cute.
It's Glennon Doyle Melton.
Whose is it?
Glennon Doyle Melton.
Do the next right thing. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. You understand? The godly voice just saying, do the right thing. He added something special. Do the next right thing, which I'll talk about in a minute. But it's just saying, do the right thing. And what's the Godzilla voice saying? It's basically saying, do what you want now. Do what you want now. He wants to be watching the Super Bowl.
Do what you feel like doing.
Yeah, do what you feel like. I feel like going to the Super Bowl, but meanwhile, he's got investors. If his investors knew who invested their hard-earned money, that they're planning on feeding their family with and putting their kids through education with, who are invested in his company, and he's going to be drinking beers and watching the NFL instead of making the call to China.
You mean the Super Bowl?
Sorry, the Super Bowl. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You get it? So this isn't necessarily about Judaism. This is just doing the right thing and doing the next right thing. What you added is amazing. And it's very powerful. Why? Because how do you feel after you do the right thing? When you win the battle, okay, now we're back to soul. When you win the battle and you're doing the right things, and you got Bambi's on steroids, and she's got fortification, she's pumped up. You got Bambi basically on equal ground with Godzilla. How do you feel about yourself when you're doing the right things? Good. Good.
Right.
If I take this cup to the garbage after I teach, meaning if I remember that there's a battle here, and I actually go throw it away, how do I feel? Feel good? If I clean up my picnic from the forest instead of leaving it in the forest because out of sight, out of mind, but if I actually clean it up and it was a hassle and I packed it all up and found a couple little baggies that flew into the bushes and I get those too, and I really left the forest cleaner than I found it, how do I feel?
Great.
I feel great. So if you want to feel great all the time, do the next right thing.
But sometimes doing the right thing feels terrible.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be that way.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it feels. Most of the time it feels.
What's the next right thing?
Yeah, but afterwards.
Next right thing is just get habitual about it. Like, just what's the next right thing now? Meaning, if you want to look at like, oh gosh, I got to start doing all the right things, that's going to be rough.
Oh,
But if
okay.
I can just do the next right thing and do the next right thing and do the next right thing, everyone try that. It's a good mantra. Do the next right thing. Try that.
Do the next right
Do
thing.
the next right thing.
And by the way, a lot of the things that we do that are right do hurt badly and are very painful. But deep down, because it is the right thing, there is an overall appreciation, not a depreciation. There's an overall appreciation, even for the right things that hurt. Because we all have to make sacrifices sometimes. And for the right thing that can hurt a lot. But it's an overall good thing. You know, I had a student who, his family were very nervous about him becoming observant here in Jerusalem. Because, like, is he going to still show up to like our events? Is he still part of us? Like, and what happened was he got back to where he was from, and his cousin Billy was having a barbecue. And it was called like Billy's Big Barbecue Bash, you know, bar mitzvah. And it was all bees, and where was it? It was like about 20 miles away into the forest.
Wow.
And so they all knew, like, the kid who was studying here, David, in Jerusalem, that there's no way he's going to be there because he keeps Shabbat. Everyone's driving into the bar mitzvah.
Wow.
And they're all going to be together, but because David's now observant, he's not going to be there. So the next morning comes, and everyone's there, and they're pulling into the bar mitzvah, and guess who's welcoming? Who's on the welcoming committee?
David.
David, yeah. And they're like, David, you're here. Like, you broke Shabbos for us. You stopped. Like, you broke Shabbos for the family. That's so beautiful that you do that for us. And David points up on the hill to a tent. And he says, I would never break Shabbos. Not for you, not for anybody. Unless someone needed a trip to the hospital because they were dying. But otherwise, I've been sleeping in this tent. And they're like, but it rained all night long, like power thunderstorms. Like it was, you were in that tent? He's like, yes, and if you'd like to feel my socks, they're wet. All my clothes are wet, and I'm kind of hoping that they dry out before I start hugging everybody. Then they realize that I'm soaked to the bone. It was a freezing night, and I was sopping wet the whole night because the hill just poured right into my tent. But I'm at the bar mitzvah. And as much as that was a miserable night, there's a deep down, did the right thing experience. And a great statement to the family that family's important to them. And that I'm not choosing Judaism over the family. I'm there. You'll see as time goes on, I hate to say this, but you'll see that there will be situations where something's very important to you.
I know.
Has it already happened?
I'll tell you later.
Tell me later. It probably just happened on the wedding
Oh,
night.
no, I'll kind when he comes to visit.
Okay, anyway. Things happen that won't be so comfortable for everybody, but it's part of doing the right things and doesn't always feel good. Now, how do you go to the soul? How do you go to the soul? So there's a couple answers. One of those answers is that you gotta give Godzilla. You gotta give Godzilla a little bit of a bribe. Sometimes you gotta bribe Godzilla. Meaning you gotta throw the dog a bone. Sometimes you gotta throw the dog a bone. I've already got, like, for example, this is a big work week for me. I got a lot of hours where I'm on, and you know, I'm working hard this week, a lot of hours, and so I already have Friday more or less planned out, and it's going to be mountain biking in the morning, microbrewery the afternoon, let me get a sauna, and the sauna where I go, you got like guys slamming you with eucalyptus leaves and various stuff, and I'm hoping to get one of those as well. And then at my house, it's just going to be a family Shabbos, but it's going to be with all of my favorite wines and beers and things like that. And I'm giving Godzilla a little, like, I'm basically telling Godzilla to shut up for 2 more days. Just shut up for 2 more days. And I stay totally true to my responsibilities to the people who are depending on me to fulfill my commitments to them for a very packed work week. So that's one way to deal with the soul, is you want to throw Godzilla a bone, throw the dog a bone, and get him on your side. Another way to do it is to be careful with the things you love. All of us have certain things we love, and make sure you're always giving yourself the things you love. So it's similar to throwing Godzilla a bone, only it's not so much Godzilla. It's for some people it might be just writing, like just creative writing or journalizing. Another person might like music.
Yeah, that would be me.
Music, to play the music. Another person might like exercise with certain kinds of, just airing yourself out. But you want to keep that going. I've found a lot of people crash and burn pretty hard if they don't do the things they love. So that's just in general. Oh, it's not something you wait for. You keep it. That's the difference. It's in the schedule. It's in the schedule. For example, one of the things I love is hot water. So I go into hot water every morning. I mean, I don't just take a mikvah. One of the pools is 117 degrees. And so I just melt away in there every morning for a period of time. Like I'm in there just chilling out. It's built in. It's part of the day. That's in there. It's always going to be in there. And certain things are just in there. And that's another way you keep yourself moving on the Bambi side. I already mentioned in Judaism we have these different things: tzitzis, kippah, Torah study, mezuzahs, tefillin. All these things are to keep the soul voice pumped up. I just want to mention one thing, and that is that have you ever noticed that you sometimes get negative thoughts about good things? You ever notice that? You have negative thoughts about good things? Like, for example, Judaism's a good thing, but sometimes we'll have negative thoughts about it. Rabbis are supposed to be good things. Obviously, there's been plenty of rabbis in the news over the years that are not done good things, but they're usually good things. Prayers are usually good things. These are not the harmful things in the world. They're promoting goodness. But why do we have sometimes negative thoughts about good things? Anyone here ever notice I do it. You ever notice you get negative thoughts about what are really objectively good things? Yeah? So the reason that is because sometimes what happens is you were not caring enough about Godzilla. Meaning you didn't let the body voice have its say at all. You were ignoring it. This is my point. If you over-ignore the body voice, it'll actually start saying negative things about what are objectively good things. So if you ever hear a voice in your head that's like anti-rabbis, anti-Torah, it's probably because either you're thinking that Judaism will deprive you of a life you love, or it is depriving you of the life you love because you're letting yourself not listen to the more animal voice or maybe the kid voice in you that wants to have fun. So you want to make sure you're balanced with those things and you're always listening. I listen very carefully to my voice. I call my animal voice Johnny. Okay? and I know if I ever have negative thoughts about good things, it's always because I was kind of rough on Johnny. And try to be nice to Johnny.
if you're having negative thoughts, then how do you know it's a good thing in your head?
Meaning, if you asked 100 people, is connecting to God a good thing? Yeah? I mean, unless you're talking about an atheist, they're all going to say yes. Meaning it's objective. If you asked enough people, they would all say it's good. Okay, now, I'm just going to show you one more way how this works. Just one more pitfall. Where'd the red pen go? One more thing. I'd like to show you a little chart. And this chart is going to be connection to God. Sorry. Let me think. The higher you go, this is like I'm going to call this observance. And over here, this is connection. So if someone goes higher observance before they've gotten really connected to God,
Cheers, Johnny.
Thanks very much.
That's cute. Cheers.
so if someone goes higher in observance, then it's the connection, which can often happen for kids being raised in an extremely observant home. So kids raised in an extremely observant home are going to have high level observance and not necessarily end connection. It would look something like that. So what would happen is that this area, the chances of falling are high. See that? Chances of falling are high. Because it's not based on anything. It's just a lot of observance without a lot of connection. Now, someone who's very connected, but they feel a great connection to God, but they're not observant of they're not living aligned with God. They're just feeling very connected to God. So it's going to look something like that. And what we're looking for is to have a flow of our observance. And we want to look for some kind of balance of like, I'm connected, so I'm like living more. This is the way life is. Like, for example, if anyone who's had a great marriage, so you're going to have connection, and you're going to want to be observing their needs. You're going to observe what's required. So every relationship has requirements. If you want to be connected to somebody, people have requirements. And so you'll notice the more connected you get with someone, the more willing you are to bear the burden of that person. You'll bear their burden. And marriage is the ultimate example of more and more connection, more willing to bear the burden, until we've all met couples who are very much older, where one is not so well, and the other one's caring for them in the most beautiful way. And so they're literally bearing their burden, like changing their diaper, like helping them walk, getting them in and out of bed, they're washing them. It's like a very, very beautiful connection and a great bearing of burden. That's like getting to the ultimate, connection and bearing burden.
But I don't think, when you say bearing a burden, at that point it's not like a burden.
Excellent. Very nice. Nicely said. The reason why is because of the connection.
Yeah, and that's...
The connection to God's so strong that it's not a burden. I know people who are elderly couples whose connection's not very strong, and he's much older. It's a burden. She's hiring people.
Yeah,
She's hiring people to take care of him because she's like,
that's okay.
I'm not that connected to bear this burden.
Because there's things you just can't do either.
Right, but she's well enough and young enough to bear the burden. She's just not willing to bear the burden because she she's not that connected. She's pretty connected, not that connected to bear the burden. So for her, she'd rather go to art class and yoga and do her thing. And as long she always makes sure someone's there. She would never, and she would not go to yoga if she found out the person taking care of him was unavailable that day. She would stay home. But it's her preference to not bear the burden if possible. But if you actually watch their relationship over the years, you would not be particularly impressed by their connection. It was a rough connection. Committed to each other, but not the most connected couple. So let's look at it now just vis-a-vis God. In our relationship with God is to make sure you're balancing connection with observance. You want to always be balancing these things. Because if you if you go too observant without a lot of connection, you're going to find yourself falling down big time, and that comes with a lot of guilt, a lot of negativity in your heart and stuff. So it's probably better to err on the side of less and move your way up. For most people, there are certain people who are kind of lazy types, so they should probably err a little more higher on observance than connection. Everyone's got their own settings. But the goal, though, is to be on that observance connection path where we're relating. And that way you're so solid. Because for example, let's say part of this person's observance, keeping Shabbos, it's unshakable because it's not a question of do's or don'ts. It's a function of their connection to God. You get that? So you'd say to the person, can't you just be a little more lenient for this 1 week? And the guy's like, no, this is my connection to my Maker. My observance is a function of connection. So it's not, this is not do's and don'ts. You get that? This is not a do's and don'ts question. This is an actual connection. And my connection is being expressed via this commandment called Shabbos or kosher or whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the point I was making, that observance meant to create connection. Otherwise, why would we observe?
Yeah.
It's supposed to build connection.
Yeah, but you were probably not raised observant.
Uh-huh.
You probably were not raised observant.
I'm not.
Yeah. So you've been, as you connect more, you get more observant.
Right. Yeah, there is a mechanical observance that doesn't create connection.
Sure. Well, people are raised that way. And people get a lot of resentment. And there may be many of you in this room who were raised with more observance than connection. And and your parents probably had more observance than connection. And you were raised with more observance than connection. And you've had to actually cool off all that observance, get the connection, and then suddenly you can pick up it, and then the observance comes back. So it's a very nice science, this science. And you get why we're talking about this? Because then in the battle between the soul and the body, is there a tour to pick up?
There was a tour.
Leo usually comes and picks everyone up.
Yes. So Rabbi also, unfortunately, his wife has a bad toothache and a gum factor, so he ran back. So the tour was canceled. What I have planned instead of the tour, for anyone who's interested, is Rabbi Aaron Nickemer, one of the teachers, does a whole Jewish theme around the movie Inception in our theater. Whoa! And that's what I was going to do right when you finish. So,
are you serious?
Yeah, so that was going to happen in the theater right now for all those who are interested in seeing the movie. Inception, but he has a whole interesting talk around it.
Is it 3D?
It's 325. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys, this is special. To watch a full feature Hollywood film with Rabbi Neckemeyer explaining the secret meanings behind it. You still have time for me?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll finish this tomorrow.
Okay.